Hey there, it's Lacey J, here to ask you to go to spacebearmedia.com right now to access all our content, buy yourself some merch, and most importantly, send us a message, a question, fan mail, even hate mail. We'll respond on YouTube. Also, please remember to rate and review the podcast on your favorite app or share it with someone you know who loves Lost. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Lost in My 40s, Season 5, Episode 1. It's called Because You Left. It's an ensemble cast episode, and it's, of course, a Derek episode. But first, welcome back, everybody. How you doing?
Awesome.
Great.
Doing great.
Yippee! I cannot believe it's Season 5 already. The next time we do this, the next time we say it's episode 1, it's going to be the last season. I'm kind of in shock. Derek, are you ready to dive into some season 5 time traveling?
I am.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Okay. Well, we have no power ranking update because they have not started yet. So how about we just jump right the fuck in? Derek?
Let's do it.
All right. We are in 1977, and ironically, a 1970s era alarm clock shows 8:14 on the front.
Oh.
The 4 flips to a 5, and the alarm buzzes. A man's hand reaches over, hits the snooze button, and then lays back down in the bed with his wife. A baby starts to cry, and the woman says, "Baby's awake. It's your turn." The baby continues crying, and the woman kisses the man, stirring him awake. He gets up, and we see that he's Dr. Chang from all of the orientation videos.
You really actually don't see that at this point. They make it very, very deliberate to always just show his back or have not have his face in frame.
Oh, you're right. Did I put that too early?
You guys. Spoilers.
I ruined season 5.
All right, I'm done.
I'm done.
I quit.
Fuck this shit.
You're right. Though it is at the back of his head as he's like walking across the barracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he puts Willie Nelson's Shotgun Willie record on the record player before putting a bottle on the stove to warm it. He goes to the crying baby and picks it up. The baby coos at his daddy. As the song continues to play, we see the doctor feed the baby while in a rocking chair. Shower, shave, shit, brush his teeth, and then put on one of the. You gotta do the 3 S's. And then put on one of at least a dozen identical black turtlenecks out of the closet.
Is it tactical turtleneck?
Steve Jobs.
Yes. The record starts to skip, and he pulls the needle from the record, causing a loud scratch. I wonder how many people listening know what a record is. And skipping and scratching and needles.
Yep.
The doc exits his home in the center of the Dharma barracks. People buzz around and birds chirp as the doctor walks to another building. Now inside, a man in a Dharma Initiative jumpsuit greets the doctor, and another tries to hand him a stack of papers. Dr. Chang refuses to take them and says, "I don't need a script. Let's go. I don't have all day."
He's a real dick.
Kinda.
The sound man preps a boom mic, the cameraman readies the camera, and a wardrobe woman hands Dr. Chang the lab coat we've seen in so many times. Chang puts on the coat, sits down in the leather chair. The director says, "Okay, Dharma orientation film number 2, take 1, and action." Dr. Chang says, "Hello, I'm Dr. Marvin Candle, and this is the orientation film for Station 2, The Arrow. Given your specific area of expertise, you should find it no surprise that this station's primary purpose is to develop defensive strategies and gather intelligence on the island's hostile indigenous population." Suddenly, a door bangs open and a man in a hard hat bursts into the room. He's yelling for Dr. Chang, who responds, "Damn it, what the hell?" Director yells, "Cut," and the man in the hard hat says, Sir, we got a problem down in the orchid.
Okay, so like how high up is Dr. Chang? You know, we've only ever seen him in these videos, but now we're seeing the way he's like controlling the room, and you know, he's not given instructions to read these. This sounds like his plan. They want to take him to the orchid because obviously he's in charge of that. We never really realized like what his role in the Dharma Initiative was until now.
Maybe he was Ben Linus's predecessor.
Oh.
Maybe he was.
Maybe.
Seems pretty high up based on all what's going on here.
Well, and why is he using the name Marvin Candle?
Yeah.
Well, and so there's two things here, though, Derek. It's not he's not going to be Ben's predecessor because in this situation, the Dharma Initiative are the invaders. The hostiles are who we know as the others, who then Ben Linus eventually murders is the Dharma Initiative, and then the others are the others as we know them. So he is somebody's or he's somebody's employee, I suppose, whoever the Dharma Initiative is, right? We know like Alvar Hanzo and those names, but we've never met those people. But up until now, I feel like he could have just been somebody given a script and told to read, but he now seems kind of important.
Right.
Don't you think? Yeah.
Well, important, but also using aliases in every single film that he does. He's got a different name. So he obviously doesn't want anyone in this organization or the people that are on the butt end of these experiments to actually know who he is.
The people in the Dharma stations do not know who he is, but the people that are living there in the Dharma barracks that the others eventually take.
Yeah.
Well, he's Dr. Chang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So what it tells me is that he's the head of this initial group that's setting all this stuff up, and then they're going to hand it off to a bunch of people who don't really know what's going on.
Right. And as I don't know if you guys listened to episode 0, you should have, but we what we heard or what we discussed, I should say, in episode 0, Lost Destiny Calls, Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof mention how the Dharma Initiative is still sort of mysterious at the time. And it appeared as though they were doing psychological experiments. They even mentioned that. So, yeah. So maybe Dr. Chang is just another one of these unethical doctors that we run into.
Nah.
All right, Derek.
Okay, so we're now at the construction site for the Orchid Station, and a blue Dharma microbus pulls up. A construction worker carries a sawhorse past Dr. Chang, and the hard hat man get out of the microbus and enter the Orchid. The two descend in the elevator. When they reach the bottom, the hard-hatted man lifts the elevator gate, and the construction foreman leads Dr. Chang down a passageway where workers are busy hauling rock and welding tunnel supports. They come to a spot where a man lies motionless on the ground with a bloody nose. The foreman explains to Dr. Chang that they were drilling 3 meters in when they lost 6 carbon bits trying to get through. After the operator freaked out and got the bloody nose, they sonar imaged the wall to find an open chamber about 20 meters behind the rock. The foreman hands Dr. Chang the sonar printout, which shows the shape of the frozen wheel Ben Linus turned, and he tells Chang that the only way to it is to blast through. Chang says, under no circumstances, this station is being built here because of its proximity to what we believe is an almost limitless energy. Ooh. Maybe it's unobtainium.
It's mithril.
And that energy, once we can harness it correctly, is going to allow us to manipulate time. What?
I find it really hard to believe that someone who's so high up and in charge would be explaining something like that to
grunts.
Dude with a drill.
Yeah. He's hiding his name in the films, but he's telling this guy exactly what they're doing. It doesn't make sense.
Well, and also if it was so dangerous, and I think in a second he's like, if you drill a millimeter further, you'll destroy everything. What the fuck do you have him down there drilling? And why does the foreman not know, don't go past this point? Like, what the fuck?
It seems like information that would have been nice to have had 20 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I get the feeling at this point that if the others hadn't wiped them out, they would have wiped themselves out by now.
So maybe Ben made the right choice. Is that like we were all shocked at that
Right.
genocide earlier, but now we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So the foreman laughs and asks if they're going to go back in time to kill Hitler. Chang replies, "Don't be absurd. There are rules that can't be broken." The foreman wants further instructions, and Chang says, "You're going to do nothing. If you even drill 1 centimeter further, you risk releasing that energy." How does he know? 1 centimeter.
Nice to have known this beforehand, buddy, but thanks for stopping filming your film for me.
If that were to happen, God help us all. Chang hands his hard hat to the foreman and takes off back down the tunnel towards the elevator. As he moves towards the elevator, Chang brushes shoulders with a worker traveling in the opposite direction, carrying a pressurized gas tank. Chang scolds him, and the man apologizes in a familiar voice. Workers carry away the injured man on a stretcher as Daniel fucking Faraday, looking exactly the same in 1977.
What? He's got that Richard Alpert thing going on now.
Yeah. And so he sets down the pressurized tank. Before leaving, the foreman says, "Did you hear me? Time travel. How stupid does that guy think we are?" Faraday sort of nods, and then as the men leave, Faraday turns to stare at the rock wall.
The look that he shoots there is fucking amazing.
It is a classically Daniel Faraday dun dun dun.
Well, that's probably why Chang told the foreman, because who's going to believe? Oh yeah, we just discovered time travel. No problem.
Oh, okay. So just like the foreman, then they just think Dr. Chang is like a nut job. Okay.
Yeah, mad scientist, whatever.
Pay my. Give me my check and I'll dig where you want. Whatever.
I hope they're getting hazard pay for this shit.
Oh, there ain't no OSHA down there.
No, there's no OSHA. All right.
So then we
after
get
his face.
We get the lost title screen. And we're in the present. We're back with Jack and Ben in the flash forward funeral parlor with Locke in a casket, just when season 4 ends.
Lock in a box.
Wow, that was like,
No, it was because I had a mouthful of coffee and couldn't make any other noise.
A little necrophilia was in order.
Numbers.
Benjamin Linus unfolds a wheel table and says, "Why don't you close that up now, Jack? Come on, let's get him in the van. It's out back." Jack wants to know where they're going to take him, and Ben says they'll figure that out once they pick up Hugo. Jack points out that Hurley's locked away in a mental hospital, so Ben says, "That should make recruiting him considerably easier than the rest of your friends." A pouty Jack says they aren't his friends anymore. And an always sarcastic Ben says, "That's the spirit." He's great.
Oh, shit, he's so fucking funny.
A bewildered Jack wonders aloud how they got into this place, and just before slamming the casket shut, Ben says, "It happened because you left, Jack. Now, let's get started, shall we?"
Oh, Ben Linus, always executing a plan.
Jack and Ben are now in a hotel room. Jack is shaving his face while Ben packs. He wants to know what happens after they get Hurley, and Ben tells him that after Hurley, they get Saeed and then Kate. Jack doesn't see that happening and wants to know when the last time Ben saw Locke alive. Ben says, "On the island, in the orchid station below the greenhouse. I told him I was sorry for making his life so miserable, and then he left." So obviously John's visit to you made an impression. What did he say to make you such a believer? Jack says that Locke told him that everyone left behind on the boat and island would die if Jack didn't come back. Ben wants to know if Locke told him what happened after they moved the island, but Jack says he didn't. Ben replies, "Then I guess we'll never know."
Translation, I know exactly what happened, and I'm not telling you.
So 3 years earlier, we're back on the island, again at the end of season 4, where Benjamin Linus is dressed in a parka in the frozen wheel chamber. He grunts to move it, and the metal grinds and creaks as century-old ice is dislodged. Centuries. Once again, we watch as buzzing and magnetic humming sounds start to envelop the chamber and the whole island. In the jungle at the others' camp, Richard and Locke look up. The buzzing and humming continue. On the beach, Sawyer and Juliet look up at the sky and stand to face the source of the noise. And on the open ocean, Daniel Faraday and his Zodiac raft full of Flight 1815 and his Zodiac raft full of Flight 815 survivors look towards the island. Aboard the helicopter flying above the open water, Aaron cries, what a shocker, in Kate's arms as Desmond, Lapidus! And the Oceanic Six look around and at each other. Back in the wheel chamber, Ben continues to push until white light bathes the chamber and then envelops the whole island. The light strikes the Zodiac passengers. Juliet and Sawyer shield their eyes. Richard turns away, and Locke raises a hand to shield his eyes as well. There's a loud rumble, and then the sound and light stop. So somewhere in 2001 to 2004, Locke stands with his arm up to his face. It's now raining, and thunder crashes. Locke looks around to find himself standing alone where the camp used to be. Instead, there is nothing. Locke is entirely alone. He calls out, Richard. Richard. Anyone? Anyone?
Bueller.
Bueller. That's right.
Yeah. I would have gone with a different delivery there, but go, that's good. Bueller.
Aboard the Zodiac raft, the passengers all look around, confused. Frogert asks, what happened? What was that light? Faraday replies, we must have been inside the radius.
Oh, yeah, because that explains it. Thanks, Dan.
Yep, exactly, the radius. Yeah. So on the beach, Sawyer and Juliet are both disoriented. The boat and the helicopter have disappeared. Bernard comes stumbling out of the jungle, calling for Rose. Rose, don't ever let go. Rose comes stumbling out of the jungle just after him. Everyone is distressed, and Sawyer tries to calm them down by saying they should head back to camp. A very alarmed Bernard says, calm down. No need to panic. We can't go back to the camp. There is no camp.
What?
And Rose goes, you're not a guide. You're a dentist.
You're a dentist. Stupid asshole. Rose will get to that in the next few episodes.
Oh, yes.
Get back to demeaning him.
So Bernard is now leading Sawyer, Juliet, and Rose back to where the camp should be. Instead, it's just a beach and jungle where shelters should be. Some red shirts are milling around looking confused. An agitated Bernard is explaining what happened. The sky lit up, and then this. The kitchen, gone. And then all the tents, all the food and water, gone. Well, everything but us. All of it. It's gone. Just then, Faraday chimes in to say, it's not gone. And this is when I realized what actually happened. My question is what happened to the island? I realized when I saw this, what happened.
Uh-huh.
Everyone turns to see him and the other people from the Zodiac back on the beach. Rocky Dennis is excited to see Daniel, and they hug.
Oh, Rocky.
Sorry, Sawyer says, what do you mean the camp's not gone? Who the hell are you anyway? Miles replies, that's Dan. He's our physicist.
Because every group has to have a physicist.
Of course.
Right,
True.
of course. Mm-hmm.
So Faraday tells everyone there's no time and he needs to get to the man-made structures on the island. Juliet says there's a Dharma station 15 minutes away. Sawyer wonders if she means the hatch that blew up. He's ignored when Faraday responds to Juliet, that's perfect. We should get moving before it happens again, okay? Sawyer is very frustrated and asks, for what happens again? And why is our camp gone? Faraday finally replies to him and says, your camp isn't gone. It hasn't been built yet.
What?
Shit.
Ooh.
Deep.
Mind blown.
So now we're in the present, and Kate is in her home in Los Angeles. Cartoons are on the TV, and Aaron, slightly older than 3, sits in front of his uneaten breakfast. They're talking about the Choo Choo cartoon when the doorbell rings. Dan Norton, an attorney working for an unknown client, is at the door with his associate.
Anybody recognize this guy?
He's got a super punchable face.
Oh,
Mhm.
perfect.
He ends up in all kinds of stuff.
He
The
played
actor,
the dad. He was the dad on My So-Called Life.
I thought you meant the punchable face.
Wait, no. No, I meant the lawyer.
The lawyer was the dad in My So-Called Life.
Yes.
The associate is the one I want to punch.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Excuse me. Yes. No, the attorney was the dad on My So-Called Life, which was like one of my favorite shows in the 90s.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's so good. Anyway.
Jordan Catalano.
Oh my God, I loved him. And now he's a cult leader.
Do you think that show stands up? Do you think if you watched today that you'd think it was as awesome as it was when you saw it?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I was obsessed at the same time with My So-Called Life as I was with Party of Five, which is why I watched Lost, because Matthew Fox was going to be on the show. And I don't know if I watched either of those, if they would hold up. I mean, they're solid 90s shows. It's like when you watch things like Friends back, I don't know how many times I fucking cringe when I watch Friends now. So I'm sure.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's not, there's the nostalgia. I wouldn't say it's terrible. There are moments that I still get emotional remembering watching it for the first time, but there certainly are a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, cool, I've grown. Because this is awful. So I don't know, Ben. Maybe I'll rewatch them and find out. One of my other favorite shows was Ally McBeal, and without rewatching it, I can absolutely tell you that is probably wicked offensive in today's standards. But
most likely.
Anywho, enough of 90s TV. Derek, continue, please.
So Norton claims to have a court order to conduct a blood test to determine if Aaron is actually Kate's child. Uh-oh. Kate refuses to allow the test and tells Norton to leave, which he does, saying that he'll be back with the sheriff. Kate runs to the bedroom and begins frantically packing a backpack. She grabs an envelope of cash and a gun, tells Aaron that they're going on vacation, and leaves the house. As she's pulling the suitcase through the door, she looks at Aaron and says, "Say bye-bye, baby."
Mama,
so who's not
what's
surprised?
Vacation.
Kate's on the run.
Who's not surprised that Kate, her immediate reaction is to pack a suitcase and
grab a gun, grab
off.
some money, get on the road.
Yeah, it's probably just have one of those go bags ready.
And I'm actually kind of surprised that the attorney doesn't have anybody doing a stakeout on the house, knowing that Kate has a tendency to fucking run.
Yeah, bit of a flight risk.
Yeah, right? Yeah, being that she's like the most famous fugitive in the world, probably.
Yeah, right.
So somewhere in 2001 to 2004, a shirtless and shoeless Sawyer is now leading the group, with Julie behind him and Faraday behind her. She wants to know why Sawyer jumped from the helicopter, and he says, "I told you, we were running out of gas. I wanted to make sure they got back to the boat."
We know who.
Did it look cool? That's what I...
Did it look cool?
She asked her, did it look cool? Because I felt like it looked cool when I did that.
Don't matter now anyway, does it? Faraday pushes past them to the front of the line and tells them to speed up. Sawyer tells Faraday to give him his shirt.
What, to wrap it around his bicep? He's like 3 times his size.
Seriously.
He'd probably use them as socks.
He didn't ask for his tie, though. Can you imagine Sawyer walking around in Daniel Faraday's like skinny shirt and Faraday's scrawny little body with a tie hanging down?
Yeah, he just puts his tie on and he's like a Chippendales dancer for the rest of the fucking episode.
Faraday says that there are more important matters, so Sawyer wants to know what the hell is going on. Daniel wants Sawyer to trust him, but Sawyer says, "Trust you? I don't know you." Faraday replies, "We really do not have time for me to try to explain. You have no idea how difficult it would be for me to try to explain this phenomenon to a quantum physicist. That would be difficult. So for me to try to explain it, whatever is happening," but before Daniel can finish, Sawyer slaps him across the face.
That was pretty amazing. I mean, Daniel was taking like the long route to say, like, you're too stupid to understand.
You're dumbass.
Yeah, exactly.
You hick. Charlotte yells, "Oi, what in bloody hell do you think you're doing?" Oh, I did that accent. Because I guess it's oi. And then she moves towards Sawyer, who says, "Shut it, Ginger, or you're getting one too."
Ooh, Sawyer's had enough.
Sawyer insists that Faraday explain himself, so Faraday says, "The island, think of the island like a record spinning on a turntable."
Like only the first scene of the show.
Only now that record is skipping. Whatever Ben Linus did down in the Orchid Station, I think it may have dislodged us. Miles says, dislodged us from what? And Faraday replies, time.
Ruh-roh.
So it's funny to me how a minute ago Faraday was like, it would be hard for me to explain this to a quantum physicist, much less you fucking redneck. And then
Very
2
eloquent,
seconds later, he explains it.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's exactly what happened.
Juliet quickly figures out that's why the camp is gone. The island is moving through time. Faraday confirms something is moving through time, but says it would be either the island or them who are dislodged. He explains, it's just likely we're moving your people and us, and everyone in your group, you're all accounted for, right? Sawyer takes a deep sigh and says, not everyone. Locke.
I think it's kind of other than Sawyer. I think it's funny that their clothes travel with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do mention at some point, I'm not sure, I'm way ahead making outlines, so it could be in an episode somewhere. But I think they do mention.
I think Rose and Bernard have a conversation about it.
Yeah, it's something about like the stuff that was with you goes with you or something. They do mention that at some point.
because any object that they have, like backpack, stays with them.
Right. It's like their immediate stuff or something like that. But yeah.
I can imagine while Bernard was opining on that Rose was like, "You're no Miles DeGrasse Tyson. You just stick to filling cavities."
I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, what did I say?
You called him Miles.
Miles DeGrasse Tyson. Yeah, he'd be like Neil deGrasse Tyson, except really sarcastic.
Okay, so he's
thinking more like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah, that might have been what I was doing. Yeah,
Neil is Frogert's real name, so it's Frogert DeGrasse Tyson.
That guy. Oh God. Dude's gross.
All right, where's Locke, Derek?
He is alone, moving through the jungle, over a stream and up a hill. Now on a grassy prairie hill, Locke hears a motor in the distance. He charges up the mountainside and looks up to the sky. He sees a disabled Beechcraft twin-engine plane plummeting right at him. Locke ducks just in time. Whew, man. And then the plane crashes onto the island.
Did anybody notice that, like, as the plane went over, for some reason the earth started shaking?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Moving all around. It was just like,
I guess they're trying to simulate the wind being generated by the plane.
Oh, it was terrible.
I don't know.
I thought it was funny that the Virgin Mary statues are like they're chucking them out the window to stay lighter.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell is that.
They're like, let's be like Sawyer.
Yeah, they were lightening the heroin load, I guess. I mean, they had to drop them all over the island. Otherwise, how would Charlie find them?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
The wreckage is billowing black, poorly CGI smoke in the distance as Locke runs towards it. Before he reaches a plane, Locke finds something on the ground. It's one of the blue and white Mary statues containing heroin. He picks it up, does it, and makes his way to the plane. Where we
does it? You mean like he just jabs a vein and goes?
Yeah, it just goes.
It's like,
yeah.
The rest of this episode is going to be a lot more palatable if I'm fucking chasing the dragon.
Locke is like fucking just. He goes, "Oh, just fuck it.
Fuck it.
Fuck all this. There's no destiny."
You know what? Charlie looked pretty good on that shit. Let me do it.
Yeah.
So he makes the way to the plane where we've seen it in season 1, up in a tree. Locke is calling out hello to anyone who might hear him while he's climbing the wall Boone once did. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out. Booth.
Sorry.
And the bullet ricochets just to Locke's right. Locke looks down to see he is very high up, just as another gunshot explodes. Again, just to his right. A third gunshot gets Locke in the right leg, and he loses a grip and falls backwards towards the ground, landing into some foliage.
So were the first 2 shots warning shots, or I don't understand why there was 2 shots and then the third one hit him?
The guy missed.
Because
is he that bad of a shot? You got a guy.
I guess so.
Well, I believe the gun has a scope on it too.
Yeah, there's no reason he couldn't have just shot him right in the head, probably. But.
Yeah, no, I would think Ethan seemed to be fairly capable. I would think that he probably just would have put one in his back on the first one, but you know.
No, but he had to get symbolically shot in the leg because that's Locke's deal.
Yeah,
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So Locke is panting and grunting as he feels his wound, which is bleeding profusely. Leaves Russell, and Locke tries to sit up. He sees a man emerge from behind the plants, pointing a rifle directly at him. fucking Ethan says, "Who are you?" What? Locke stammers a bit, and Ethan demands to know how many others are on the plane. Locke tries to explain that he wasn't on the plane, but Ethan isn't buying it and aims the rifle. Locke shouts, "No, wait, stop. I know you. I know who you are. Your name is Ethan. Your name is Ethan. My name is John Locke. I know this is going to be hard to understand, but Ben Linus appointed me as your leader." Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's going to work.
Ethan scoffs and said, "That's ridiculous." Then the island starts to hum and the rumbling can be heard in the distance. Ethan is about to shoot and says, "Goodbye, John Locke." But before he can fire, Ethan is engulfed in white light and Locke braces himself.
Were you surprised to see Ethan?
I was.
He's kind of like herpes. He just sort of pops up every once in a while in stressful situations.
So that's how it works, huh?
I think herpes probably seems more pleasant than Ethan.
Yeah, maybe. All right.
So when the humming and light vanish, Locke is again alone. This time it's dark out. Elsewhere on the island, Sawyer, Juliet, and the gang are now all standing in the dark. Sawyer says, "Great. So when are we now, whiz kid?" Faraday replies, "We're either in the past or in the future."
Oh, well, thank God you're here.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. Yeah.
Thanks for narrowing that down for us, Dan.
Well, at least we're not the president.
Dr. Obvious, not Captain Obvious. Don't get it twisted.
Oh, excuse me. Shall we go back to the present?
Yes, we shall. So off the island, Sun descends an escalator in an airport. Her cell phone is ringing, and she's waiting for someone to answer. The woman on the PA says, "Flight 23 to Paris will begin boarding at gate 15. Please have your boarding passes ready." As the PA announcement is repeated in French, Sun gives up, closes her cell phone, and approaches the ticket counter. Flip phone.
Yeah.
The British ticket agent asks Sun where she's flying and to see her passport. Sun hands it over and tells her Los Angeles. When the agent scans Sun's passport, an alarm comes over her face. She says, "Excuse me, could you wait here for just one moment, Miss Kwan?"
Well, that's probably not good news.
Yeah. Didn't seem very, A tall security guard is now ushering Sun and her belongings into a room. He closes the door and guards it while Sun yells to open it. Charles Widmore emerges from another doorway on the other side of the room and says, "Save your breath. They only do what I tell them to do." Wow, damn. He controls not TSA, whatever their version is in England.
He controls airport security, apparently. Okay.
Sun wants to know why Widmore had her brought to this room. He says, "You had the audacity to approach me in broad daylight in front of my business associates in public."
Wow.
Why did I have you brought here? Because you showed me no respect. I'll be respected, Sun. Sun says, "Fair enough," and then sits at the table. Widmore joins her at the table and says, "Since you seem to be worried about your plane, I'll get right down to business. You mentioned that you and I had common interests. Why don't you tell me exactly what they might be?" A stone-cold Sun replies, "To kill Benjamin Linus."
She was really quite matter-of-fact about it.
Yes.
Oh, she is.
Duh,
right
to kill Benjamin Linus, Chuck.
Yeah. She's on a mission.
Chuck.
Jin is dead, and she is gonna get revenge. It's an interesting.
Hell yeah.
It's an interesting twist with her to see her kind of go this cold and determined. You know, she's always a nurturer on the island. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, his death and the way it went down and everything she witnessed, she's just like, nah, I'm going to kill this motherfucker.
Well, and she basically did the same thing with her own father, too, when she was like, I own the company now.
Yes, that was really her first bold move that you see. And she's just been transformed by the experience of leaving the island.
Yeah, she's almost sort of like reflecting Jin before he changed. It's like without Jin there, she's almost becoming like him, being sort of ruthless and cold
and becoming like her father too.
Becoming like her father, yeah.
Right, and that was what was Jin's deal, is that, you know, he was having to emulate Mr. P as well. Yeah. All right.
So, speaking of, back in the hotel room where Benjamin Linus is watching the news, Jack is fully dressed in a suit and says, "Okay, let's go get him." The news anchor on the television says the victim was found shot in his car on the grounds of the Santa Rosa Hospital, a private mental health care facility outside Los Angeles. Police have now identified the suspect in the shooting as a patient at the hospital and who escaped earlier this evening, Hugo Reyes.
Ruh-roh.
Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because Reyes was a member of the infamous Oceanic Six. As to why he may have murdered a visitor to the facility where Reyes lived for 2 years, that remains a complete mystery.
He didn't bring me my pudding on time.
He tried to take my robe that I wear 24 hours a day.
So Ben turns up the TV off and says, "Well, looks like we have a change of plan."
Nothing phases this guy. It's just, okay, all right, here we go. Something different. Let's do it.
So it's nighttime now, and Hurley and Saeed sit in the car outside the Rainbow Drive-In. A woman delivers some food, and Hurley is ecstatic. He offers Saeed a fry, but Saeed declines. Hurley says, maybe if you ate more comfort food, you wouldn't have to go around shooting people.
That's what keeps me from shooting people.
Yes, comfort food.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm always cooking?
It's because you're trying not to kill a bitch.
I mean, you got to do one thing or the other. So
okay.
Cook or kill. Okay.
I just, my fear of God is what prevents me from doing all of these horrible things.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because that worked in the Middle Ages.
Exactly.
Saeed starts the car and drives to an apartment complex. Both get out and walk along the exterior balcony of the apartment complex. Hurley wants to know who the man Saeed killed outside the Santa Rosa was. Saeed says, "I don't care. He was armed and he was watching you. That made him an enemy."
All right.
Damn, Saeed. Can I also point out, his hair is looking good in this scene.
He's looking pretty dapper. Yeah.
He's looking good in this scene. I'm loving it.
So Hurley wonders if the man was there to kill him. Saeed says he doesn't know, but he's not taking any chances after Bentham died. Hurley says, "You mean Locke?" And Saeed replies, "Yes, I mean Locke." As they climb a flight of stairs, Hurley says, "I need a code name."
I think he actually says, "I need a cool code name."
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay, I need a cool code name.
Before asking Saeed what he's been doing for the past 2 years, Saeed tells him he's been working for Ben Linus, and Hurley asks if that means Ben is on their side now. Saeed says, "Listen to me, Hurley. If you ever have the misfortune of running into him, whatever he tells you, just do the opposite."
Join us next week for how that backfires.
Right.
Saeed then looks at the top of a door and sees that a piece of Scotch tape on the door has been severed. He tells Hurley to wait there and then flings the door open, draws his gun, and points it inside.
Now this is a little strange to me. Why would the tape be severed? Wouldn't it just be pulled
Unstuck.
up on one side?
Yeah.
It's not like it was it's tape. So when the door opens, it's going to be on one
why
side.
would it
And it's
rip?
not a strong tape.
Exactly. If it was a super strong tape, then maybe it would rip. But yeah, I thought that was
Right. You're right.
weird.
It's
Like
just
that
one
Flex
side.
Seal tape that you can put on the bottom of a boat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But in this case, with Scotch tape, it would just be one
Right.
side peeled off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, because I guess it's more obvious if they show it broken. Get the point across. I don't know.
Yeah.
and if they had used stronger tape, then it might have alerted.
Right. Oh, definitely would have.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Christy's right.
So he's ambushed, and the gun is knocked out of his hands. Saeed blocks the man's punch, grabs him, and flings him over the balcony. Hurley looks down.
Shit.
Hurley looks down at the dead attacker, mortified. Another man firing his gun charges at Saeed, who grabs him, punches him inside the apartment. They're crashing around the place, and the attacker drops his gun. Saeed is thrown and lands on a couch. The man recovers his weapon and aims at him, but Saeed throws a lamp at him, but the guy ducks. Saeed jumps the counter and runs for a kitchen cabinet, reaching for a hidden pistol taped underneath it, but it's too late. The man fires 3 darts into Saeed's neck and shoulder. Saeed pulls a dart from his neck and then slumps over the sink because that's one fast-acting tranquilizer.
Yeah. You notice the size of these darts that come out too?
Yeah.
That's like what you use
compared to
an
the size of
elephant
the
dart.
gun. Yeah. The dude's got like this little, it looks like a little pellet pistol, and all of a sudden like these 3 giant darts come flying out of it.
The man approaches cautiously, and then Saeed springs up and smashes a skillet into the attacker's head. They struggle over the...
I built up an immunity to iocane powder.
Yeah.
I also think the way that this fight scene is shot, it really reminds me of some of the fight scenes in the Bourne Identity. I wonder if they've got like the same guy choreographer, or like
for the fight choreographer.
A lot of the camera moves and things like that are very similar to Bourne Identity. Yeah.
Well, you have to. The Bourne movies were coming out around the same time, so it's probably like the popular style, even if it's not the same person.
It's like after The Matrix, you started having bullet time everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But it was a good fight scene, though.
Yeah. It always is with Saeed.
Yep.
Yeah. This one was pretty legit.
They struggle over the gun, and the dishwasher opens its bottom shelf, rolling out with several sharp kitchen knives sticking up from the silverware basket, because you always put your knives in backwards.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you don't want to put your good
knives,
kitchen knives in the fucking dishwasher.
Nope.
No.
Never.
No.
Yeah, but
stupid.
It has to be there. The attacker comes to Saeed again, but Saeed blocks his attack,
of course,
hits him in the face, grabs his wrist with one hand, chokes his throat with the other, and kicks the man's foot out from under him. The attacker falls backward, conveniently landing right on the basket of knives.
Stick around.
Outside the apartment, Hurley picks up the gun dropped by Saeed, while below him, several men have begun to gather around the body of the first attacker. They're trying to figure out if the guy is okay when one of them notices Hurley on the balcony holding a gun.
I think that the guy is probably not okay.
Probably
There's a big pool of blood coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they don't. Yeah.
Don't touch
Hurley,
the gun.
What the fuck are you doing right now? This is the first time I feel like I've ever been really disappointed in Hurley, that he basically like posed
Does he know
for
he's
a picture
wanted,
with
though?
a gun in front of a dead body. It's just like, what are you doing? It doesn't matter. He's one of the most famous people in the world.
Because he's
Why
Hurley.
would he pick up the gun and look
even
at
if he doesn't know that he's wanted, he knows that he just escaped from a mental institution, and Saeed killed a guy outside of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you probably want to like have a low profile, dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's what I'm saying.
One of the guys yells that someone has a gun, and another snaps Hurley's photo with his flip phone. They all run and scream to call the cops. Hurley enters the apartment to find Saeed struggling to move. He tells Hurley to get him to his car. While Hurley is helping Saeed out of the apartment, he says, "Dude, I thought I was supposed to be a safe house. I never should have left the island."
Oh.
Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa.
The not so safe house.
Yeah, not very safe. Somewhere in 2001 to 04, the island crew is trekking through the jungle. Charlotte wonders if Widmore is looking for them, and Miles says, "It took him like 20 years to find this place the first time. I'll start holding my breath now."
How does Miles know that Charles Widmore has been searching for this island for 20 years? Because it doesn't seem to me that Charles Widmore would be the one to pass that sort of information down to his pawns. You know what I mean? Like, why do they even know he's the one that hired the ship? Like that, all of that surprises me. But the fact that he suddenly knows that Widmore's been looking for the island for 20 years.
Well, maybe he was talking to someone who was dead and knew.
That's true.
That's right. He sees dead people.
He knew the whole thing
That's
about Ben
actually a good
Linus
point.
too. So Miles knows more than just like what his position would indicate, I think.
Does he get an episode?
He does. He does get an episode. It's this season. It's called Some Like It Hot. And it is...
I've ever been called Ghostbusters.
It's episode 13, and it's one of yours, Derek. I gave it to you
because it's a pretty cool episode. And his backstory is actually kind of amazing. And as I normally do through this podcast, I'm pretending like I don't know things when I say things about him. All right, let's keep going.
All right, so Juliet yells, "Over here," and they arrive at the blown up hatch. Faraday says, "Okay, so when we are now, it's now after you and your people crashed on the island." Sawyer wants to know if that means their camp is back, and when Faraday says it's possible, Sawyer decides to head there. But Faraday tells him it's pointless. He says, "We don't know when the next flash is coming. By the time you get back to the beach, the camp could be gone again." Sawyer still wants to go and hopes that the helicopter hasn't taken off yet. Juliet thinks they could warn them not to go to the boat, but Faraday bursts their bubble and says, "That's not the way it works. You cannot change anything. You can't. Even if you tried to, it wouldn't work. Time. It's like a street, all right? We can move forward on that street. We can move in reverse, but we cannot ever create a new street." Yeah, tell that to Doc Brown.
Yeah.
If we try to do anything different, we'll fail every time. Whatever happened, happened. Sawyer calls him Danny Boy and wants to know how he knows so much about this. Faraday takes his journal from his backpack, sighs, and says, "I know about this because I've spent my entire adult life studying space-time. I know all of this because this journal contains everything I've ever learned about the Dharma Initiative. That's why I'm here. I know what's happening." Sawyer wants to know how to stop it, and Daniel says, "We can't stop it." So Sawyer says, "Then who can?"
Woo!
Most scientists rely on networked computers between universities and massive databases filled with scientific knowledge, but he's got a little book that he jots everything down in, so that makes him an expert.
He's a quirky scientist.
Yep,
Wanks it a lot in his lab.
Yeah.
Also, point of fact, whatever happened is the episode title of episode 11 of this season.
Oh.
On another part of the island, Locke is groaning while he takes a strap and tightens it around his leg as a tourniquet. Footsteps approach. Locke unsheaths his knife, and Richard Alpert emerges from the darkness carrying a torch. So he found the torch factory.
Yes.
Of course he does.
Locke wants to know what's happening, but Alpert attends to his wounds instead, saying he needs to get the bullet out. Locke wants to know how he knows about the bullet, and Alpert says, "Because you told me there was, John." What? Huh?
What?
Wow. Locke protests that he didn't, as Alpert opens a first aid kit and says, "Well, you will." Locke tells him it was Ethan who shot him, and Alpert makes a comment about what goes around comes around. As Alpert is pouring alcohol on Locke's wound, Locke says, "When am I?" While using tweezers to get the bullet, Alpert tells Locke that when he is relative. Locke wants to know where Alpert went after the sky lit up. Alpert tells him, "I didn't go anywhere, John. You went." And then he pulls the bullet from Locke's leg, and Locke says, "I don't understand. How? How did you know that I was here? How did you know where to find me?
And how did you pull a bullet out of the front of my leg when I was clearly shot in the back of my leg?"
Exactly. Yeah, because there's an exit wound in the front, but it didn't exit. Yeah, okay. Alpert replies, "I wish I had time to explain it, John, but you're going to be moving on soon, and we need to go over a couple things before you do. Second thing, next time we see each other, I'm not going to recognize you, all right? You give me this." And Richard hands him the compass, which we've seen before, and Locke asks what it does. And I knew the answer. Alpert says it points north, John.
Best line of the show, the way he says it.
Yeah, best at least of this episode. But that is fucking perfect.
It points north, John.
Look, John, look, I wish I had time to be more sensitive about this because it's a lot to swallow. But you need to know it in order to do what you got to do. So I'm just going to say it, okay? The only way to save the island, John, is to get your people back here, the ones who left. Locke is confused and talking about the chopper, so Richard tells him his friends are already home and he has to get them back. Locke says, "How am I supposed to do that?" And Alpert replies, "You're going to have to die, John."
The fuck?
What?
Wow.
What?
And the rumbling and light return, and Locke pulls an arm over his eyes to shield him from the light. Somewhere else in 2001 to 04, the rumbling stops and the birds can be heard chirping. It's light out now, and Locke is alone again. He looks into his palm and stares at the pocket compass.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was like, whoa. Going back a few seconds, Juliet is explaining to Miles that Desmond used to live in the hatch Dharma station and pushed a button every 108 minutes when the same jump that hit Locke hits them. They all hold their heads in pain, and Sawyer says, son of a. And then again, and Sawyer finishes the sentence, bitch. Juliet notices the gaping hole is missing, bends down, and reveals metal of the hatch. Sawyer walks away and says he's going in the back door to get supplies. Faraday tells him it's not a good back door.
Giggity.
Faraday tells him it's not a good idea, and Sawyer snaps back. The sky can flash all at once, but I ain't starting over, Dilbert.
The cartoon actually dresses like that in a white shirt with a pencil tie.
Yeah.
I ain't rubbing two sticks together and starting a fire. I ain't hunting damn boar. There's Dharma food, beer, he had to mention beer, and clothing in there. And I'm getting Desmond to let me in one way or the other. Faraday says it's not going to work, and Sawyer questions why, and Daniel says, because Desmond didn't know you when he first came out there. That means you never met, which means you can't meet. He's avoiding paradoxes a lot.
Uh-huh.
Sawyer replies, that would be fascinating if I was listening to you. Sawyer starts...
Sawyer. There's a lot of funny lines in this episode.
Yes. Sawyer starts banging on the door and screaming, but Faraday keeps telling him nobody will answer because if it didn't happen, it can't happen. Sawyer is screaming about being a ghost of Christmas future.
Oh my God, this episode is fucking hilarious.
When Daniel yells, you can't change the past, James, Sawyer spins around, grabs Daniel by the shirt and says, everybody I care of just blew up on that damn boat. I know what I can't change.
Ouch.
Yeah.
The look on Sawyer's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just says so much.
He's an incredible actor. He's so good in this role, and he's so good at transforming Sawyer. He's such a different person than he was when the show started, and you see it on his face, this like complex emotion of missing Kate and worrying about Kate and thinking like, it was pointless that I jumped off of that and now I'm alive and she's dead, and it's all right there on his face. It's pretty amazing.
Well, and he's admitting to caring about all of those people.
Right.
Yep.
Which is not something
that was loner.
Typical Sawyer behavior. Yeah, he went and got attached and then lost. And
So Juliet steps in between the men and suggests they all go back to their beach. Miles questions why they do that if the camp isn't there, so Juliet says, so stay here. Miles turns to Charlotte and says, that chick likes me.
Jesus, Miles.
Just as Faraday notices Charlotte has a nosebleed. She tries to brush it off as unimportant, but Daniel mumbles about the sight of blood being a bad thing. Again, Charlotte doesn't seem to care about the bloody nose. Daniel realizes he left his pack by the hatch and runs over to get it. He pulls his journal out and begins leafing through it.
Did anybody notice how he had to point out to her that she had a bloody nose? And he's like pointing at her. What? It was dripped down to her lip. Like, how do you not notice?
You have to feel it, yeah.
Yeah, that blood is dripping out of your nose. I don't know how you would ever have to have that pointed out to you, but okay.
Maybe that Rocky Dennis face is missing some nerves.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, Derek, get us back on track.
Moments later, Faraday is banging on the back door of the hatch while whispering,
Giggity.
Please let this work. Please let this work. I used enough lube. I did.
Oh my God.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yep.
Banging at the back door.
That's right. Bang, bang. Oh.
Okay.
He's about to knock again when the door opens and a hazmat suit comes out, pointing a gun.
Just a suit? Nobody in it? Just a hazmat suit?
We can't see the face yet. Yeah.
In Dungeons and Dragons, there are animated suits of armor, so that's kind of what I was thinking when I read that. Yeah.
Okay, so there's an animated hazmat suit. Got it.
Exactly.
Faraday begs him not to shoot, and a familiar Scottish voice says, "Did you best explain why you've been banging on my door for the last 20 minutes, brother?" Faraday is relieved that it's Desmond, who is now hoping Daniel is his replacement. Daniel says he is not, and Desmond asks if they know each other. Faraday replies, "Yeah, in a way." But listen, that's not important. What is important, Desmond, is what I'm about to say to you. I need you to listen. You're the only person who can help us because, Desmond, the rules don't apply to you. What?
What?
You're special. You're uniquely and miraculously special. Desmond is
sounds
already...
like he's trying to recruit him into a cult.
Right,
yeah, seriously.
Right.
Desmond is already confused, and when Daniel asks, listen, if the helicopter somehow makes it off the island, if you get home, Desmond says, what are you talking about? The buzzing lights start again, and Faraday knows he doesn't have much time. He says, listen, I need you to listen, or people are going to die. My name is Daniel Faraday, and right now, me and everyone else you left behind, we're in serious danger. You're the only person who can help us. I need you to go back to Oxford University, go back to where we met. I need you to go there and find my mother. Her name is... But before he can reveal the mother's name, Daniel Faraday is whisked away to another time.
Did you all notice how, unlike Ethan, Desmond seemed to notice the light and the humming when it started? He looked around like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Where Ethan didn't seem to have any idea what was happening.
Oh, he was wanting to blow Locke's brains out.
Yep.
Yeah. But Desmond apparently is uniquely and miraculously special.
That's right.
And so he seemed to be able to recognize the time.
Here's some Kool-Aid. So now we're in the present.
Desmond, the present.
Yep.
The present.
So now we're in the present, and Desmond wakes up in the middle of the night panting. He switches the light on, and Penny is next to him in bed. Desmond is softly repeating, I was on the island. I was on the island. Penny reminds him he's been off the island for 3 years now and then kisses his shoulder. She tells him that he's safe and he's just having a dream. Desmond looks at her soberly and says, it was a memory. Desmond gets up, pulls on a shirt, and emerges from the inside of the sailboat the two are in. He fits a handle onto the crank, begins pulling up anchor. Penny follows him and asks him what he's doing. Desmond says they are leaving, and when Penny questions where they are going, he says, Oxford.
Oh, fuck you.
Lost title screen, end of episode.
Whoa. Did Daniel plant a memory in someone's head via time travel?
Cool.
Interesting.
That's pretty fucking cool. Alrighty, folks. Who's ready for season 5's first fun facts?
All right.
Let's
Do it.
In the opening scene of season 5, Dr. Chang is listening to Shotgun Willie by Willie Nelson. In case you missed the lyrics, they go a little something like this. Shotgun Willie sits around in his underwear, biting on a bullet and pulling out all of his hair. Shotgun Willie's got all his family there. Well, you can't make a record if you ain't got nothing to say. You can't make a record if you ain't got nothing to say. You can't play music if you don't nothing to play. The chorus repeats. There's a couple more verses. I won't make you go through all of them. However, the reason we're talking about this today is because Shotgun Willie is not just the 16th studio album by American country music singer-songwriter Willie Nelson, but it also happens to be his nickname. And today, I'm going to tell you how he got it. It all began when Willie Nelson learned that his daughter Lana was being abused by her husband Steve. In interviews speaking about the moment he found out, Willie said, I ran for my truck and drove to the place where Steve and Lana lived and slapped Steve around. After slapping the fucker, Willie drove back to his Ridgetop, Tennessee home. A little while later, Steve decided to show up to the house, park his truck, and begin firing at the home with a .22 rifle. Willie happened Willie happened to be standing in the barn doorway, and a bullet barely missed his head. That's when Willie decided to grab his M1 rifle, and he fired right back at Steve, who ran to his truck and drove off. But Willie had a feeling Steve would be back, so he hatched a plan. He recalled his thought process again in an interview, saying, thinking Steve would come to Ridgetop to pick me off about dusk, I hid in the truck so he couldn't tell if I was home. I had my M1 and I had a shotgun. Do you think Steve came back?
Probably.
Yeah, of course he did. And when he returned, Willie came charging out of the garage and shot at his car. He recalls, that's when I shot his car and shot out his tire. The whiny little fuck Steve, instead of firing back, called the police and reported Willie Nelson for shooting his car. And when the police arrived, what Willie told them is, Steve must have run over a bullet. And that's how he got the nickname Shotgun Willie and eventually wrote that silly little song. So
nice.
Yeah, we love Willie Nelson here. He's a pretty like solid dude. I think. Yeah. All right. Shall we do some best and worst moments? Let's start with Derek.
All right, so my best moment was when Sawyer wanted to get back in the hatch because he didn't want to start over from scratch again, and he lost everyone. He's hoping to prevent the helicopter from ever taking off.
Oh, okay. So you like that Sawyer was
that's Sawyer, yes.
Protective Sawyer mode. Okay.
Yes. And my worst moment was having to see Ethan again.
Yes. Ben, what do you think?
Several best moments. I think in the Saeed whooping ass in the hotel fight. I really enjoyed that one. Hurley picking up the gun and getting a picture taken. I just laughed. God. I thought that was funny.
That's my worst moment. Dan's face, okay.
right before they go to the title screen, and then finally when Richard Alpert says, "It points north, John."
Yes.
Those were my favorite. Worst, I didn't really have a worst, to be honest. I mean, I think like it was just the dumb shit that I normally, like why was a bullet being pulled out of the front of his leg, stuff like that. But I didn't really find that there were really continuity errors, but it wasn't really any bad scenes. So
okay, I had my worst moment as one of your favorites, and that was when Hurley picked up the gun and had his picture taken. I was just so disappointed in him for that.
It's so dumb, but it's funny.
It was.
Yes, yeah, it is funny, and it makes next week's episode pretty hilarious too. So my best moment though is a quote by Dr. Daniel Faraday. Your camp isn't gone. It hasn't been built yet. It's like, what? It really kind of, that moment sort of reinforces like, okay, we're doing this. Like we're fucking time traveling.
Yeah. And it was a bit of a mind fuck.
Yeah. Christy, what about your best and worst?
My best moment was Sawyer grabbing Faraday outside of the hatch and telling him, everybody I care about just blew up on your damn boat. I know what I can't change.
Yeah, it's an intense moment.
It was just such raw, genuine emotion. And I love seeing who Sawyer really is underneath the whole asshole persona that he puts on.
Right.
Yeah. My worst moment was also Hurley being photographed with the gun and the ketchup blood on his shirt. And then, for best moments, also honorable mention, it points north, John.
See what he should have said after that, but that's not important right now. Airplane reference.
An airplane reference. Okay.
What's a hospital? What's that? It's a building full of doctors and patients, but that's not important right now.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Let's start the season 5 power rankings. How about Christy? You want to go first?
Okay, so at the bottom, third worst is Ethan. Second worst is Widmore for very obvious reasons. And the worst is Dr. Chang.
Oh, you're mad at him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's a dick. In the top 3, my third favorite is Desmond. And then Sawyer, and then we have Faraday at the top.
Yay, Daniel Faraday.
And I'm going to fuck Sawyer and kill Widmore.
Okay. Those are some solid rankings. What about you, Derek?
I only had one worst, and that was my good friend Ethan. Because really, to me, there wasn't too many worst characters in this episode.
Okay.
And my third best was Sawyer. Just the whole, a lot of his lines were good, and then what he did at the hatch and all of that. Second best was Saeed for helping Hurley and kicking some ass in that apartment. And then my best was Dan Faraday. He was just really good in this episode because he's fucking smart.
2 for Dan Faraday, our physicist. Fucking and killing?
I'm going to fuck Kate because, she's on the run. And fuck her out the door. Catch her. And I'm going to kill Ethan just because he's Ethan.
Indeed. All right. I'm going to do mine now, I guess. You're going to have to bear with me through these worst characters. They actually pain me a little bit. But I have Desmond as my third worst.
What?
There's going to be some more explanation for that. But he told Penny he was done with all of this. Now, I understand his motivation, but he's supposed to just be living the rest of his life with Penny and not getting involved in this shit again. So I put him in the bottom for that. My second worst is Hurley.
Huh?
It hurts me to do it, but I couldn't take the gun and the picture scene. It was so stupid, and it just really upset me. And then my worst is Ethan, of course. Captain Herpes.
No explanation needed.
Yeah, thank you. Now,
Captain Herpes.
my third best is Desmond. Because after 3 years of freedom, he jumps right back in to save his friends. I just can't. The conflict between his dedication to Penny and his friends tears me apart, as you can see. Second best, Benjamin Linus. He got permabanned from the island by turning that wheel, and he is still finding a way to fucking get back there because he's Benjamin
That's right.
Linus.
Didn't they say once you leave, you can never come back?
Can never come back, but he apparently has a plan. So he impresses me.
He was probably just lying.
Remember what Saeed said, just believe the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point too. Number 1, Dan Faraday. That's 3 for Dan. He's doing his best to save them. That is why he's here, he says. So he is my number 1 spot. I am going to have my first threesome of the season.
Surprise, surprise.
Already. I'm going to get some of that Penny and Desmond action on the boat, which looked like off the coast of Greece, maybe. So before we go to Oxford, I'm going to do a little bit of that. And then, guys, I have to kill Jack's beard. I can't take it. I
that
can't.
Beard is rough.
All right, Benjamin, why don't you give us yours and then give us the first power ranking update of season 5.
Yeah, I only had one person on the bottom. That's Ethan, for obvious reasons. For the top 3, I had third, I had Saeed, though I think I like Richard Alpert. I had kind of tied with him just because he delivered my favorite line. But for Saeed, because obviously he hasn't gotten any pussy in a while, and he's kicking ass, taking names. In second place, Ben Linus, much for the same reasons, but some of his snappy retorts and everything in the first couple scenes I really enjoyed, and then
I love his dry delivery.
Yes,
that's what it is. Yeah.
And first, like everyone else, Daniel the physicist Faraday.
Woohoo!
Him a clean sweep of the week. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to fuck Kate, and I'm going to kill Dr. Chang.
A lot of Dr. Chang hate. Okay. All right. Interesting. Let's hear the first rankings.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Third from the bottom, we've got Charles Widmore with -6 points.
Surprise. He's in the bottom again.
Surprise. Yeah. Dr. Chang with -8 points.
Wow.
And in first place, it's no surprise, Ethan with -19 points.
Fuck that.
He was in it for like less than 3 minutes.
I know. The top 3, we've got a tie for third place between Ben Linus and Kate.
Wow. Okay. How many points?
6.
All right.
All of hers are fuck points, obviously.
Yeah.
In second place, Sawyer stands alone with 7 points. And in first place, far out in front, is Dan Faraday with 20 points.
Yay, Dan Faraday. I believe he was at the top early in season 4 too, and then just sort of got choked out somewhere along the way. Wonder if he can hang on this season. All right, guys. Shall we do some final impressions of season 5, episode 1?
Let's do it.
Do it.
Thank you for that, Benjamin. Christy, why don't you start off today's final impressions?
I love this episode. Number one, just all of the jumping around and keeping us on our toes right from the beginning of the season. And I just really, really love all of the Sawyer stuff in this episode. He's so good.
Agreed. For me, I just wrote down another stellar opening from the writers. Every season, they grab me again, right in the beginning with some sort of new, mystery or twist or something. And this season, it's this time travel. And it's like, I feel every season is fresh. Every season is something new for me to explore. And they did it again. I'm hooked. I can't wait to watch the rest of the season. Ben, what do you think?
I honestly, I didn't think it was as good as some of the other openers that we've seen.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, I thought it was a good episode, but I think I think what it is the jumping around in time. While I understand that they're using it as like a plot vehicle, to me, it sort of diminishes a bit of the human drama.
Okay.
And like you said, the best fantasy, the best sci-fi is always has to do with the human drama being in the forefront. And I felt like just a little bit that the time slippage or the time travel or whatever sort of trumped that a little bit in this episode. It's a small
island is being super dramatic right now.
Yeah. The island is kind of a fucking diva.
Okay.
But all in all, it was entertaining. I enjoyed it, but I would say of the season openers we've seen so far, I think it's actually the weakest season opener.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I can see that argument, and I might even agree with you, but I still have the opinion that I loved it. Something has to be ranked last.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Even if you love them all. So yeah, I can agree with that. I am curious to see how your opinion changes. Sorry, I was trying to think of another word and I can't. Of course, really high. So evolves is the word. I'm excited to see how your opinion of that evolves, Ben, as we go forward, because spoiler alert, Derek, the time travel doesn't stop for several episodes. So
Shit.
I'm curious as to if you think that just sort of takes over the whole first season, or if some of the storylines, once we learn things through the time travel, if your opinion will change. So let's make sure to keep discussing that as this goes on. Yeah. All right. Derek, what do you think about the opener of season 5, and what kind of questions did it leave you with?
Well, I thought it was a really good episode. Answered a couple of my questions right off the bat. Because we find out why the island disappeared, and it was because it's moving through time. I liked, the good fight scene with Saeed and, Sawyer, and Ben Linus had some good lines.
Yeah.
And Richard Alpert did too.
Yeah.
Faraday knows what's going on and is trying to find a way to fix it. Locke gets shot by fucking Ethan. And he finds out that to save everyone, he'll have to die. And of course, my first question is, why does Locke have to die to save everyone?
Okay.
What is up with Faraday time traveling? And why are the original survivors moving through time but not the others?
Oh, that's an interesting question too. Okay. Well, I mean, we're going to explore all of that in season 5, Derek. So I am certainly excited to see what you think. All right, guys, listen, that's it. Season 5 has begun. We are so glad to be back. And speaking of back, We will be there next week, January 3rd. Happy New Year. We're going to have season 5, episode 2. It's called The Lie. It's a Hurley episode, and it's a Christy episode. And join us as Hurley tries to handle an unconscious Saeed. The creepy time travel lady returns.
What?
And our time-leaping survivors hope that the next leap will be the leap home. All right, we'll see you next week, guys. Glad to be back. Season 5. Yay! Bye!
Bye.
Bye.
Lost in My 40s is a Space Bear Media production. Executive produced and edited by me, Lacey J. Sound engineering, editing, and original music by Benjamin Trimp. Like and follow Lost in My 40s on Facebook and SpaceBear_Media on Instagram and Threads. Plus, follow Space Bear Media on YouTube for extra video content. Or, for everything in one place, go to spacebearmedia.com.